Hey folks, welcome into the BN Cubs Podcast. I'm Brett Taylor, that's Michael Cerami. We are here courtesy of Ankin Law, 312-6 million, injury law made personal. Going to talk.
Why are you laughing? I'm not even doing anything this time.
I know. That's what I had in my head because I was I don't listen to, so obviously it'd be weird, I think, if I listened to our own podcast, but sometimes it automatically clicks on when a previous podcast ends on my Spotify. It'll pick that one and kick on. And so I was in the car and I was listening to the start of the last podcast without the visual. And as folks who listened last week remember, Michael was making a visual fun of me, I think, or a silliness that required you to be watching on YouTube to actually get it. And I was like, I wonder how that played in the auditory format. And it was kind of funny. It was actually.
Yeah. Well, for what it's worth, I got an email from Apple Podcasts that they're about to start supporting video versions of their podcast. So perhaps coming soon to your Apple Podcast. I know Spotify does, but I think that's like
Spotify. It does. And not to, go on a whole meta tangent, but like, and certainly for the folks who are watching on YouTube, I don't want to disparage their choice to like look at all of this splendor as we speak. But I feel like people who are watching on YouTube, they're choosing specifically to go to a visual platform to watch. And so like, I actually get annoyed when my podcasts on Spotify are sort of automatically become a video version. And it's like, no, I don't, that's not what I want. I'm just trying to listen. So anyway, that is to say, I do want us to continue to keep the auditory format at the front of our minds while also serving our visual customers. So, all right. The spring training games start tomorrow. The Cubs kick it off at Sloan, hosting the White Sox, which will be, kind of cool for a variety of reasons as far as spring training games go. Do you remember, I don't know if you're too young for this to have been like a big part of your early season Cubs fan experience, but like back
ice
in
boxes?
the
grew up with, they had to deliver the ice up the stairs to you. I remember.
With the hooks and back when Cubs were on WGN and they would televise approximately 2 spring training games a year. And they were White Sox games pretty consistently. Those ones got air because back at that time, the Cubs and White Sox didn't play each other. And so getting to see them play each other in spring training was your only way of seeing these crosstown clubs actually face each other. It doesn't, have that luster now, of course, when they play each other in spring training.
No, but I do think I really like, it feels like we're in a different league sort of when the Cactus League gets going. There's the Cactus League and the Grapefruit League, right?
Sure. It's a different arrangement of teams.
And it's just kind of like, I remember I went to spring training. This was like 10 years ago now. And I remember I was at a Cubs game and the Angels were there and like Trout was up. And I was like, boy, like I get to see Mike Trout play the Cubs right now. Like, this is pretty cool. And I don't know if it really has that feeling anymore because of how interleague the league has gotten. But I still get the vibe that you're going for. And it's always fun to play the White Sox. And when I saw that their name was the first on the Cubs schedule for spring training, I did get a good feeling about that. Like, I'll tell you that I was kind of like, oh, cool. Nice. Like, it's the Sox.
Yeah.
Like, that's I think that counts. It's the same thing when I see like the Red Sox or the Yankees are coming to town, even though that happens way more often now, it's still kind of special in whatever reason way it is. So
I've got to believe that's true for the Cubs too, right across the country. When next time they go to Seattle or whatever, I've got to believe there's going to be a contingent of Cubs fans there who are like, or Mariners fan, whoever, that are going to be like, oh, this is cool.
I mean, right.
But so anyway, there's the added layer too, that we're going to see some new faces. I don't think it's been announced yet that like Alex Bregman, for example, will appear in tomorrow's game, but I do know Murakami is for the White Sox. I think by and large, players who are participating in the World Baseball Classic are going to get involved in spring games earlier and maybe for longer than we're used to seeing. Jameson Taillon is starting tomorrow. He's leaving thereafter for Team Canada. Matthew Boyd on Saturday. Craig Counsell has said that Seiya Suzuki's going to play center field this weekend for the Cubs because he's going to be playing center field for Team Japan. So it's a little.
I think they're leaving on Thursday. I want to say the Team Japan guys.
Sounds, that sounds about right.
On the radio.
So it'll be cool. There'll be cool things to see even in a spring training context, starting tomorrow. I am eager to, get those fake games going. And I know how it plays. About a week of it, you're like, this is awesome. Baseball's back. There's no cost associated with it in terms of like your heartache. And then after about a week, it's like, okay, can we get to the games that count now? And
you know how weird it was last year though, when we had spring training, regular season, spring training, regular season.
It was the Japan games is what Michael's referencing, and those were exceedingly fun, entertaining. It was stressful because it was the Dodgers, and it's like these games count, and of course the Cubs lost them both. But it was very cool. But boy, when they had to go back and it's like not real anymore again, that was a slog. So we'll have a bit of that this year, and then the WBC will break it up, I think, quite a bit.
That makes it kind of, the WBC is fun, and I am not, listen, people are going to be like, I'm not like a big Olympics guy, really. Just, I don't know. Never really, some events are fun, I guess, but like, it's just not something that draws my attention that much. The World Baseball Classic the last couple times has really like drawn me in. I'm like, this is actually awesome. I mean, listen, and there's a lot of cool moments and, whatever, but like Ohtani and Trout's matchup was like, I was like, well, this is about as peak as it gets down to, unless the same scenario played out. And it was like Ohtani versus Judge in the Game 7 of the World Series.
Right.
Ohtani was pitching. Like how else would you make that happen? I mean, at the time, Mike Trout still had the cachet, as Mike Trout too, because he's lost it a little, his name recognition. I don't know how he's going to perform, I guess, but he's not Mike Trout anymore. He's not. And so seeing that though at the time was like, this is sick. So hopefully we get something like that again, or a Javi Baez type of moment. Unfortunately, of course, he won't be.
Right.
People
will be him specifically,
or like fake outrage about that. It's like, no, it's real outrage. It's made up.
It's BS.
People are like, so
for folks,
the rules. Yeah.
Okay.
Explain
folks
it.
Who don't know, Javi Baez, setting aside that he has obviously struggled since coming to Detroit. He is a guy who is from Puerto Rico, proud to be from Puerto Rico, has played for Team Puerto Rico twice before. They've had trouble getting all of the star players they want to participate this year because there's been insurance related issues. Mm-hmm. So like Javi was going to be needed and wanted on that team. Okay. So it's not that, but he caught a ban because he had tested positive for marijuana 3 years ago. Okay. Mm-hmm. So there's outrage number one. It was 3 years ago. Outrage number two, it was of course legal at that time everywhere. Okay. So he didn't do anything illegal. And then outrage 3, it was specifically permitted by MLB. You're no longer we're going to be testing positive for that.
All of those things, one, true. And first of all, those are the primary points. But the other point that I was trying to explain to people that people just don't, it was like pissing me off. It was like, rules are rules. He failed. No, rules are rules for things that actually count and matter. This is an exhibition contest for fun. There's the guys.
It also doesn't matter because he's going to be too high at the plate and it's going to make him perform too well.
And listen, those performance enhancing drugs. Okay. Different story. It was weed. What are we talking about? It doesn't, it's literally, it is, as far as I'm concerned, is the equivalent of someone testing positive for having drank alcohol and now they can't play 3 years ago. It's like,
3 years.
The thing that actually matters that he's getting paid $25 million a year for isn't banning him. But your exhibition event that happens once every 3 years, and he's one of the most magnetic, high profile. He created one of the most memorable single images of any World Baseball Classic that has ever existed when he tagged out, when he got caught the runner,
the throw from Yachty,
and the no look tag. And we're like, well, rules are not rules. You made up that rule. You could just decide to not enforce it. It doesn't matter. Let him play. This isn't a real thing. Or maybe that's what I meant by to me, the World Baseball Classic is for fun and nothing else. So I know that some people probably have more pride than that, but guess what? MLB is the real thing. The World Series is the real thing. I'll take America losing every World Baseball Classic forever for the Cubs to win one more World Series in the next 5 years.
I know. And you could, obviously, Major League Baseball is our life, but you could, I can hear like people in my ear from my family and something like, that's made up too. They're just like putting on pajamas and throwing a ball around a field.
I know.
It doesn't actually matter. But yeah, no, it's exhibition. It's supposed to be for fun. It's supposed to be entertaining. And
these guys aren't pushing themselves to the extreme because they can't, because they have the real season coming.
Yeah. Well, and the whole point is the international pride. And so like the whole point is to have a guy like Javi Baez on your team who like desperately wants to represent his place. And you know,
and a guy who's he's been very forward about that pride and representation. Like it just seems really short-sighted to me. Although now all that said, I'll carve myself out as I think he was one of the guys along with Carlos Correa and boy, I'm going to blank on the last name, Francisco Lindor, maybe, who were caught up in the insurance issues for Puerto Rico.
Wait, Javi was caught up in the insurance thing?
I think he was going to maybe be.
Step me back then, because I didn't realize that. I thought he was not.
I found one source that included him, but most of the other ones just talked about Lindor and Correa, I want to say. And someone was like, but it seemed tangential at best. But even still, the suspension held anyway. So
yeah, and teams, by the way, can permit the player to play without insurance if they don't mind the risk that they're still going to have to pay the player if he gets hurt, which the Tigers did with Miguel Cabrera at the end of his career, because they were going to be paying him anyway. And I think they were thinking, if he gets hurt, what are we doing? You know, I'm not saying Javi's exactly the same situation.
No, he was an all-star last year, right? All-star center fielder.
He was. Okay.
God bless Javi Baez for becoming an all-star center fielder in the year 2025.
Yes.
He started opposite PCA, right? I mean, that was at the All-Star.
God bless the All-Star game for falling in the middle of the season.
Yeah.
From a fan vote and then fan pushing the coaches who pick the rest of the team to be like, yeah, he's had a good half a year and he's fun. So don't look at his full season numbers, folks. So, okay, there's the little WBC early spring training talk. The other big story that's sort of front and center, nationally, there's obviously all of these things have threaded connections. You can point to the Cubs, but this is really all of baseball. And it's Tony Clark, the chief of the Players Association, resigning suddenly, surprisingly, reportedly over, a relationship that he had with his sister-in-law. And
first of all, they kept classifying that as inappropriate relationship, and I thought that was
but here's
odd word choice.
Okay, so no jokes. I think the reason would be not just that it's like don't have a relationship with your sister-in-law. You're not going to get bounced over that. That's just sort of like, it depends on interfamily dynamics. But I think it's because she was an employee of the Players, and he's the top guy, and that's where you don't want to have dynamics like that. Mm-hmm. And so Tony Clark, who there had been, he'd been in charge for 13 years, and there had been, I don't even know how to describe these things because, folks, you'll have to like read the articles to get the full context. But there have been issues over the last few years, falling just short of scandals, I would say. But there was like an attempted coup a couple times at the top of the Players trying to, So anyway, it's been a fraught few years. But nevertheless, it was not expected that he was going to depart right now, particularly when negotiations were just about to start for this very, very important, very, very tumultuous collective bargaining agreement process that's coming with the current CBA expiring December 1st of this year.
I think I watched too many Netflix thrillers because in my mind, Rob Manfred got together with his governors and honeypotted Tony Clark into having an affair so that he they had a coup at the top of the Players Association, actually achieved at the most pivotal time in their negotiation power. No, I mean, it can't be good, but you know, the guy who's the number 2, Bruce
Meyer,
was already brought in last time to sort of take over negotiations anyway.
Exactly. Because he's a labor lawyer.
And frankly, you know, listen, I'm going to say a lot of stuff. I'm going to say a lot. This is like my right as a podcaster. I'm going to say a lot of stuff right now that I don't have a ton of confidence.
That you have no basis for.
Yeah, no basis. It seems to me a labor lawyer is a better person to navigate these sort of discussions than a former player who's the head of the players union, whose job and role has high value in other capacity. So like when they brought him in last time, I was like, yeah, duh. Like, of course you want someone who's done specifically this.
Well, because
it doesn't really matter how smart Tony.
Yeah. Michael Weiner, who was the director before Tony Clark, was also a labor lawyer.
Right.
And he was well regarded for a very long time. And I do remember when Tony Clark first came in, it was, look, nobody's saying he's not qualified for the job. And in some ways you might want a former player paired with like a labor lawyer to kind of be a two-headed monster atop
that is
of this body. But that doesn't mean that you have to have a former player negotiating to get the best deal for all of the players. And indeed, I will add to that, and we can take this where we want. I got to be careful about this because I generally regard myself as pro player. But I'm thinking about the lockout last time, and you had the executive subcommittee, which is like the player leadership on the union. It's you know, the 8 or 12 guys. It was entirely comprised of guys who have reached free agency, who have made a lot of money and signed the big contracts. And while I get that from like an experience and respect perspective, that's what you'd want as your leadership, their perspective on what matters most in the CBA and like what are the pain points, what you want to push for, what you want to hold back, are just so different from like the 30-year-old up-down reliever who's got to make the 4 times that he's up in the big leagues. Like that's got to last him the next 10 years of his life, that money. Yeah. And that part,
which is like 90% of the players too.
It's the vast majority of players. Yeah. Okay. And I do understand
Boris had represented like a significant portion,
75% of them
of that. And you know, not only does he have sway, but he has very specific bias for a very specific type of player that he often represents, whose interests also fall into that bucket of like, and not necessarily the interests of the union as a whole.
Yeah. Well, that's why that last deal that got done to save the season, people forget this, it got voted up almost 100% unanimously from the player reps, one for each team, which is a more diverse group of leadership, and was voted down entirely by the executive subcommittee. So, which isn't to say one is right or wrong, but like it does tell you that they're coming at this from a different perspective.
Wait, no, it wasn't unanimous on the subcommittee though, because I'm pretty sure
it was. I don't think he was on the executive subcommittee. He was the player
might not have been at the time.
Yeah, he was Nico is now the player rep for the Cubs.
Yeah. And then in 2017, just circling back to, I remember the 2017 one, which is when Clark, he negotiated that one, I want to say, right? And that was the time when everyone was like, the players got dog walked. Like they,
that is what the public reaction was, for sure.
So, you know, I don't know. But I do think, you know, I do hope the players, I'm generally pro player, but I'm also pro playing baseball because it also affects my livelihood and I need there to be baseball. So we have baseball to cover.
Fair enough.
And I count myself as having skin in the game for that reason, because we do. But even setting that aside, I am worried that the players might take. In 2022, there was a lot of there was the most, I would say, pro player support from fans than you typically see. And that's in a general trajectory change of the public sort of realizing that billionaires
technology, I think, is different. Part of it. It's there's cultural, but there's also just the ability to connect with fans more directly with messaging. And
that's another huge part.
Pandemic was 2 years earlier. And I think that there was a lot more sympathy a lot more sympathy for the players during the pandemic shutdown than owners.
And so I just hope they don't overplay their hand a little bit there, because there was vast support. And, you know, I'm going to take this from a different podcast, but I loved it. Do you remember the movie The Replacements?
Yeah.
Keanu Reeves, football team, the players go on strike. The bad guys in that movie are not the billionaire owners. They're the players. And they even say all the typical lines like, oh, you get paid to play a game. Like and so I was listening to the Rewatchables podcast, Bill Simmons podcast on movies. And he was like, this movie was made now. There's 0% chance that they would be scapegoating players when there's the owners are always. And so that's true. That movement has gone that way. I just think there's reasonable. I have a reasonable fear, I think, that may have peaked a little bit. And I don't want them to lean on that as an expectation that we're just going to get behind whatever they say.
Sure. For an indefinite
I think
shutdown.
Last time was like a little bit the case. Like I was kind of like, I'm just 100% team player.
You know, I think let's make explicit, huge chunk of what this really is about. And it's in a lot of the writing and reporting this week that's like nominally about this change atop the union, but really it's owners and Rob Manfred getting out in front of what this fight is going to be about. And it's about a salary cap. And I want to put that on the table for fans to be thinking about through the season, not because, ultimately it's going to be down to the owners and the players, and they're going to have financial information and projections and these kinds of things that we will never have access to. Right. So we're outsiders, but when these fights are going on, there is a significant group that is important to that process who has no voice at the table. And that is us. It's fans. That is ultimately what drives the business. Like the players play, you have to have the players to play the game. We want to watch them. That's sort of the lifeblood of the whole thing. But if you don't engage fans in a way that they're willing to part with their dollars and their attention and their time in the years ahead, then what have you really won, in the fight? So I do hope that everybody keeps that in mind. And that'll, I think, is probably going to be a through line in our discourse about this topic throughout the year, because sadly, unfortunately, it is going to go on all year. And, when it comes to the salary cap, salary floor fight and the distribution of revenue and what counts as revenue and what percentage goes to the players and all of these things that can be fought about, I think there's more than one way to turn this thing into a good setup for the players and the owners. And I'm not going to jump out here in mid-February and say, well, a salary cap is the only way to do it. Because look what the Dodgers are doing. Like, I'm not going to say that. Neither am I going to say, and this, with apologies to the players, I guess, is neither am I going to say, absolutely, there's no version of a salary cap system that I would ever say is a good deal. Because I don't know that that's true.
I have a question for you, because I'm struggling to understand. So keep in mind, so I don't have to almost repeat it, is like the narrative we had about the highest paid players and the 90%, which are the lower paid players, right? So I have some friends that are like vehemently against all the owners, just true Occupy Wall Street, hate the billionaires. I get it. God bless.
Occupy Wrigley.
Yeah. So, they're like, there should absolutely not be a salary cap is their position, because they want the owners to just spend more and more and more. They should spend more because they can. Okay. So in general theory, I understand that argument, but if you're someone who's like theoretically on the side of the lesser rich people, I do wonder if there's an argument that like having the floor, which necessarily comes with a ceiling, does shift that money more to those mid-tier free agents and lesser players that are going to get more dollars, even, at the expense of Juan Soto not ever getting $700 million, And so I'm like, I guess I'm just, I think there's like even confusion over what supporting which type of setup supports which group and which type of player within that group. And I don't have a good idea there.
Partly because even those points that you're making obscures the fact that there's a question underneath all of that actually is the question, which is what counts as revenue,
Oh, wow.
and what percentage goes to the players. That's really what it
that's
is,
really
right?
the
Because
end of the day, right?
if, to Michael's point, if there was a cap and floor system put in place, but that guaranteed the players, say 55% of revenues, whatever. I think that's high, but hey, I'm pro player. What's going to happen is then that'll be redistributed among the players where they are getting a bigger chunk. Okay. But it will come at the expense of the guys at the very top, because it will necessarily require that more is distributed among more of the players at the bottom so that teams can reach that floor. Problems with that, there's all kinds of issues, like how big of a spread between the cap and the floor will the different market teams agree to? What will revenue sharing look like so that the bigger receivers can help the other markets reach the floor? And what counts as revenue? What's off the field
what counts
stuff?
as revenue thing is what I was always told and had been come to understand was that the owners, they want a salary cap. Okay. Some of them do, not all of them actually, but some of them do, right?
I think it might actually be all of them.
You
they
think
might
it
just,
is?
I think they disagree about where to put it, but I think to a owner, they would all want some kind of cap because it creates more cost certainty long term, which means their franchise valuations go way up.
Yes. Okay, but let me re-ask that then. Does that include any cap? Are you assuming any single possible cap 100% has a floor?
That the owners would want there to be
I'm saying, are there any owners?
That's where there'd be a fight.
That's what I mean. So
larger market owners.
Right.
And
so there's some owners who don't want a floor, right? The Pirates will never have to worry about the cap, is what I'm getting at, but they might worry about a floor.
But even that's more complicated because, so like I said, in order to get a lot of those teams to the floor, a lot of that money is going to have to come from the large market teams. So I tend to think even the large market teams that would want a cap might not want a floor. Like they might not, it's not like they're being like, get these other teams to spend more money, but no, because it's not coming out of their pocket. It's coming out of the big market team's pocket.
See, but then it just goes back to, it's like, they're not getting a cap without getting a floor.
If you're the player, right. If you're the player.
I know. Anyway, and that all is besides the point, because I thought the whole problem was that you have to open your books to guarantee a certain percentage of the revenue, the way it works and the owners just don't want to do that. And why would they? I mean, a team like the Cubs, I don't want to, it's possible that they have lots of Cubs adjacent revenue that they're not counting as team revenue.
Possible? I mean, I think it's pretty explicit. Like, and I'm not even, I think we can say that.
Judicious. I didn't
even think it's, I know you're trying to be like me. It doesn't even, I didn't even think it's derogatory because we know there are explicitly, they're not public companies, but they have filings that we can see that there's companies around Wrigley that the Ricketts family and whatever other entities own them with them would say, hey, it's a separate business. We run it separately. We don't share employees. Fine. But you operate under the glow of the Chicago Cubs entity. And that's why it has value. And so we as fans say, it sure sounds like Cubs revenue. And the players would say, that sure sounds like Cubs revenue. But I get it from the owner's perspective too. They're like, no, we're operating a totally separate business.
Right. But then it all just brings me to like, the bottom line of how did anyone cross this bridge? I mean, the mantra forever from the players was absolutely no salary cap. And the owners are like, we are definitely doing a salary cap. And that's one thing. So that's an impossible bridge to overcome. The second is getting them to agree on a level. We couldn't even agree on a freaking tax threshold last time. Remember, it was like, oh, I hope they go up like 13. That was like a sticking point. I was like, okay, meet in the middle. It's 18 and 30.
Turns out it didn't matter at all.
Yeah. Like, I'm dreading this. That sucked last time. And I just don't want it to happen again. And it just feels like it's
at least
that way.
Yeah. I mean, at least this time. So last time around, the discourse was such that it was like, there might be a lockout coming. That might, it might happen. This was sort of August, September, October. It's, January, February. And we're like, no, a lockout is coming. That is going to happen. So what you hope is that just tees up these complex issues right now for the folks in charge on both sides to be better able to sort out.
This is what's going to happen though. And this is what always frustrates me is that this will play out until not spring training starts, not the regular season starts, until the date MLB decides if we don't have a CBA by this date, then we won't play 162 games this year and something else will have to happen. And that's when it'll get signed. And it's, I'm sorry, but that when it comes to that point, it's a disservice to fans. And it's,
we're the ones that is such a good point. And it is worth hammering that if both sides are digging in such that like, we're not going to get serious
they don't
about compromising until like April of next year, when it's like, oh, we might start to lose games. You've already cost us fans so much time and entertainment. And like, maybe that sounds petty because I get it's these people's careers and their lives and stuff. But like, again, we are the third party in this whole thing.
And so I think what I wish that they would find a way to do is put like a, like artificially change the deadline. Now I know that there is a deadline, it expires, right? And on December 21st, whatever. What I'm saying though, is like, if that's the date or change the date to April 1st or whatever, if it comes to that date, then what happens is the previous CBA is extended for a year with a 5% increase and yada, yada, yada. Set up framework.
Yeah. They have that in the tool bag. Like that's
why, I just know I've watched Jed Hoyer handle enough deadlines to know that things don't get serious until there's an actual deadline. And the only actual deadline is when they say we're going to lose games this year.
Yep. Especially because, they'll lock it out on December 1. But like you said, if they didn't do that, it just continues. It just kind of carries over. And it's like, oh, we're still operating under the old one. And like other sports have done that. They've just been like, oh, you know what? We'll figure this out in a year. We'll keep operating on this for now. But that just won't happen because
start negotiating the 2032 one now. I mean, what are we doing? Like, was this a surprise to anyone? Like,
no,
but it's because they only want to do it when there's
that. But then there's also, I do get that like the landscape is changing every month. Right.
Yeah, so it's like you can't literally do it 5 years ahead of time for sure.
So anyway, folks, I hope you really enjoy deep labor talks because this we'll try not to sit in it every week, but like this is going to be a significant. It's going to matter for the rest of the year.
Spring training's tomorrow! Hooray! The Cubs really should win the World Series this year. Is what we're saying.
They need that. We're going to need that to last.
Honestly, if they did, I don't think the lockout would bother me at all. I would be like, okay.
Like, I'll just watch highlights again.
Yeah. I mean, the glow of 2016 definitely lasted a year. Like, whatever.
Hey, man, it's the year to happen, right? It's the 10-year anniversary of the 2016 team. It's the 150-year anniversary of the foundation of the Cubs. Like, it's a pretty special year. Okay, let's get to one.
Tom said he wanted to win another one, which it's crazy. He should have said that earlier.
All you got to do is declare it.
Yeah.
Where? Come on.
I declare contention.
I declare World Series. Okay, let's talk one player topic, and then we'll kick it. We're gonna have to say the other thing. We're gonna have to say.
Oh, come on! I want to play the
game. We got it. We'll save it.
This is going to become. This is not a bit he's doing where we just always say we have a game that we're going to play next week.
It'll be good. It could be any time in spring training. It'll still play.
Okay.
Okay. So the topic, I just wanted to hit on this because I found it a surprising wellspring of conversation about a very minor move that I think it touches on a lot of things that I think are interesting for preparation for the season. So last week, shortly after we recorded, I think the Cubs signed Shelby Miller, former Cubs reliever, former Brewers reliever, former hot Cardinals prospect. Do you remember who he was traded for? All right.
Wait, not only Jason Hayward, also there was another deal that he was in.
Well, originally he was with, he was for Dansby. Yeah, on the other side of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So a lot of two Cubs and previously played here.
Yes, a lot of connections to the Cubs. And
Javi Baez famously not traded for him. Yeah, boy, Shelby really has had he's like Forrest Gump of Cubs history. He's the Cubs Forrest Gump.
And I mean that in all complimentary ways.
You know what? It could be a fun framing. If he has a Brad Keller like ascent this year and ends up saving the World Series, the whole movie can be his inner for the World Series could be his path crossing with the Cubs, and
people
will
have a lot of fun. Yeah, they'll have a lot of fun with that. So the reason,
I guess he's not pitching this year.
Well, I was gonna say the reason Michael mentions end of the season, he had Tommy John end of the year last year. It is conceivable that he could be back in October, but I don't think anyone is expecting that. When he signed to a 2-year deal plus a team option. So it was a move sort of made for 2027 if that season happens and beyond. And what was interesting about it, in addition to anything Shelby Miller related that you want to talk about, we wouldn't do a podcast on, no offense, Shelby Miller. I don't think we would, spend 10 minutes on that right now.
Just 30 minutes on labor negotiation.
Just 30 minutes on labor. So the Cubs needed to open a 40-man spot for him to finalize that deal. And then they could put him on the 60-day whenever they wanted, which takes him temporarily off the 40-man. But first you have to open a spot. And to do that, I think most people were assuming the Cubs would put Justin Steele on the 60-day injured list, because that just means he has to miss the first 60 days of the regular season, which, if he's not coming back till late May, early June at the earliest, well, he's going to miss 60 days anyway, right? Well, the Cubs didn't do that. They instead designated infielder Ben Cowles for assignment, tried to send him through waivers. He was ultimately claimed by the Blue Jays, but I think that led to a lot of folks concluding, the Cubs think there's a chance that Justin Steele could be back before 60 days in the regular season, even though technically none of this had anything to do with Justin Steele explicitly, right? It was Shelby Miller and Ben Cowles, these are minor moves, but everybody kind of wanted to make the conversation about Justin Steele. And I thought it was worth pointing out some things and then, getting your thoughts. For one, I was never convinced that the Cubs weren't always going to try to get Ben Cowles through waivers anyway. He feels like one of these guys that he's never been outrighted before. So if you can do it successfully, you get to keep him for a year on a minor league deal, essentially. And the Cubs, they have guys like that. So it felt like he could be appropriate depth in that regard. So that's one thing. But of course, even if that's the case, if you were 100% sure that Justin Steele wasn't coming back before 60 days, why wouldn't you just put him on the 60-day?
Yeah, because at a minimum, you would be buying yourself time to make a Ben Cowles decision.
Exactly.
Which you can do at any point.
I think it is fair for that reason to say, yeah, this probably does mean that the Cubs are holding open that very Cub-like 0.1% chance.
I think that's probably the more likely outcome, though, right?
And we won't know right away, because the next time the Cubs need a 40-man spot, they now have Shelby Miller that they can put on the 60-day IL. So we're not going to know for a while. But here's where I wanted to get with this. I think, or I worry, should they bring him back before 60 days, even if he were completely good to go and ready?
Well, okay. Elaborate on what you think the concern is there. Because I can interpret it, but I want to make sure I'm responding to the right thing.
Justin Steele's a big, strong dude, very established in the big leagues. It is no shot on his ability to produce at the big league level. However, he is a guy who's coming back from a second elbow surgery. He is a guy who didn't throw a lot of innings last year. And he is a guy who would, if healthy and effective, be disproportionately valuable to the Cubs in the second half and in the postseason. Mm-hmm. And when I look at the trajectory of his season, the best version to me feels like whenever he comes back, he's actually really humming in September. Oh man, we got to get him back in May so he can win us some May games. Because the Cubs do have a lot of starting pitchers available. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying they're better than Justin Steele. I'm not saying the Cubs, fifth option right now is better than Justin Steele at the end of May or whatever. I'm just saying, if we're thinking realistically about guys coming back from a second elbow surgery, like they don't come back and throw 180 innings. In fact, I don't think Justin Steele has ever thrown 180 innings.
Right.
And so
this is not even fully the Dodgers argument we've been making a lot.
Yeah, it's like it's close to that. It's more specific.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would add, what you got me thinking is, I think a lot of the reason, besides all the logistical reasons you said that people were keyed up on Justin Steele when this move was made, is that we keep seeing him. He's like pitching like off the mound. And it's like, so is he going to like not throw any innings?
For months.
What's going to happen? And so what happens, he's going to just keep ramping. Let's say he's just rehabbing and ramping up all spring. It's only bullpens, and it's not even innings at a time. It's whatever it is. Well, so, okay. So then he probably heads to Arizona, the Cubs, or stays in Arizona. The Cubs
plays complex. Pitches in extended spring training games.
Spring training. Then a minor league rehab.
A long one.
Like a long one. And I think that's maybe the best.
Yeah. You have to
do. It's like, I would love to see him for like a while. Not because I don't believe he won't have it, just because work that, stuff out where it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And then come back and do it in 2 inning spurts or whatever. You know what I mean? Do whatever you got to do. And then come back when you're humming, like you said.
Well, and again, this is the two sides of the whole 0.1% chance thing, right? From the Cubs' perspective, I'm sure they're thinking, look, it's a very small chance, but like, what if he just has a crazy fast return and he's feeling so good? All our metrics show, the video, whatever, that he's good to go. And we've suffered 4 injuries, and it's like, it matters a lot. Okay, fair. Flip side of that is, you may regret pushing him quickly and early, that's just as plausible as him like being ready super fast, right? It's that you might wish, I wish we had saved more of those bullets for later on, because, it is never to say that the Cubs won't need the best version of Justin Steele. Take all the rest of the pitching group, and if everybody's doing their best, you're still going to want the best version of Justin Steele in there somewhere. True. But with more time to sort of plan him out, to figure out who is clicking and who's not, you just might get more information that tells you, I'm glad we waited, because now we really know the best way to deploy him.
I would also add that implicit in your entire perspective here is that you believe in the Cubs' ability to win games
without him
in the short term, without him, so that because if you didn't, then you would need him.
Right. And there's been times, you don't have to think back too many years, where it would have that feeling of like, oh my God, get him back as soon as possible. Yeah. And
he probably would have made a pretty big difference last year, frankly.
Yeah. To their credit, the Cubs have built up a really strong, we had a whole pod on it, right? It's a whole bunch of 2, 3, 4 guys that have good potential, and there's a lot of them, and there's the flexibility to move them around.
Yeah, there's just a lot of guys. I wouldn't rush it, but I also don't think I don't think I'm 60 days or bust. I mean, but like, I think it's just kind of like, okay, so what's 60 days into the season? Do you know?
May 23rd.
Okay. In my mind, if Justin Steele's, pitching in games from June 1st on, it's going to feel like a full season of Justin
It's going to
Steele.
feel like, I totally thinking the same thing. It's like, that's going to feel, especially in the current version of the game, that feels like a full pitching season basically anyway.
I mean, it happens because every guy misses like 6
That's
weeks.
how much Shota missed last year. Right. Shota pitched like a full season. Like, we don't think about it as like he artificially missed this huge chunk of the year.
So that's why I think I agree. I also think that the Cubs have a lot of stuff, like you said, again, obviously always setting injuries aside, keeping Justin Steele back has all the benefits that you talked about keeping him fresher, waiting longer, trying not to regret those things, more bullets, but also it provides you more room to work out the information that you need to work out with all of the other starters that are around and require opportunity. Even including guys like Javier Assad and Jordan Wicks. And like, you just, if an opportunity arises, like you might learn something, like having availability or spaces for these guys is its own value that Justin Steele can provide provided by waiting on Justin Steele. So I think I agree with that. And again, I think that this is all animated just by the fact that I'm excited to see what Cade Horton and Edward Cabrera and Matthew Boyd and Shota Imanaga and Jameson Taillon can do. And that's just those guys. And there's other guys that I'm excited to see too. So
What if Jackson Wiggins like
I
ends up pulling a Cade Horton, and then it's like,
I can't wait
he's
till
another
what
one,
happens is they're both going to be ready, and it's going to be like, are they going to call up Jackson Wiggins or are they going to call up Justin Steele?
He is also one who's going to have his innings managed carefully. But then again, Cade jumped from 60 to 120, 130.
Do you not think, I feel as though this has escaped our expectation recently? There's not even a whiff of an idea that Jackson Wiggins might contribute as a reliever to start. Not because we think he's going to be a reliever, just because the way the Cardinals did it, the way the Cubs started to do it with Justin Steele specifically and Keegan Thompson and other guys along the way. And no one's even like, I mean, Cade jumped and it was great. Why wouldn't we talk about that? And I'm not expecting Jed Hoyer to, but shouldn't we talk about that?
Well, recall, it was a conversation at the very end of the year, like Jackson Wiggins. It was like, oh, might they bring him up to be just for the playoffs? I think it's a variety of reasons. Remember, they were going to do it with Ben Brown a couple of years ago, and then he hurt his side. After Justin Steele did it, there just haven't been a lot of success stories with the Cubs, like actually pulling that off.
I know. I know.
And so I think it's off our radar for that reason. But 100%, it is, it is at least as possible, I think, that in the second half, Jackson Wiggins could come up as a reliever for the Cubs for this year,
right.
as it is that he could come up and be part of the rotation. I think those are equally, I'd say, each of 30%, and then 40 that he has a good year, but it's just a minor league year, and you look forward to the next season.
Yeah, I think so. I think that makes sense. Listen, when you look at Jackson Wiggins, like scouting reports, or you watch him, I'm like, oh boy,
it's watch him, exciting. He's all legs, and it's like and I know how that sounds.
Legs for days,
and it's just like, that is a starting pitcher right there.
Because you're going to say a stud, really good.
I mean, look, we'll see how he pitches this year, but he's looking pretty studly. All right, that's all I got for today. We good? This is the BN Cubs podcast. We appreciate you listening. We appreciate our sponsors, Ankin Law, 312-6 million, injury law made personal. Thank you, Howard and Co. I'm Brett. That's Michael. Read our stuff at BN. Cubs spring training games start tomorrow, and I'm looking forward to being in that phase. You can hold our feet to the fire in a couple weeks if then we're like, just get to the real games. But for now, I'm excited. I'm excited to see Alex Bregman in a Cubs uniform. I'm excited to see some of these starting pitchers actually start to stretch out, and we'll go from there. All right. Thanks, folks. See ya.